Hey, this is Matt. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about Rafael Nadal. Why he's balding, tennis fans react during 2022 Australian Open match. Now, we know that Rafael Nadal has been thinning since his mid-20s, I guess, and he had this typical diffuse thinning all across the top of his scalp. He actually had a hair restoration surgery as well back in 2016. We'll be looking into that, how it had been done, was it done correctly, why he still is thinning, and what he can do about it, what he can do to come back to thicker hair. Can he? We'll find out in this video. If you're excited to see more, make sure you smash that like button right now. And before we start, as always, this video has been brought to you by GoFiber, which are hair building fibers you can use to mask any thinning or patchy areas on your scalp to make your hair look thicker and better. So make sure you check out the link in the video description below where you can visit GoFiber, get a free sample of your choice and try them out. See if you like them. Hey, welcome back once again. This is Matt, and if you are somebody who is interested in getting your hair back, you want to reverse your hair loss, you want to avoid being the bald guy for life, and you want to get your hairline back to the next level with a hair restoration, then make sure you follow this channel, click that subscribe button, hit the bell, and also visit my website as many other guys before you who want to inform themselves the proper way how to get their hair back, how to avoid mistakes during the hair transplant research and avoid ending up with bad results and stuff like that. You can also get on a one-on-one call with me where you can benefit from my personal one-on-one advice and assistance with your hair transplant and getting your hair back. Now, let's talk about Rafael Nadal. And before we discuss his hair restoration as well as his recent hair loss again after having had hair restoration in the past, let me just start with his hair loss history. Let's start with 2013 just to briefly illustrate to you how his hair loss or hair thinning pattern kind of started to evolve. And this is 2013 where the first signs of hair loss started to become obvious. He was 26, 27, and although when the hair was dry, you couldn't have seen any hair loss whatsoever. You can see the thickness is great, the volume is good, and although his hairline is positioned higher compared to his juvenile hairline in his teens, still, we wouldn't probably classify it as rapidly receding hairline yet. However, by looking at photos like these, we can already start seeing the diffuse thinning uncovering. And not necessarily on the hairline, but behind the hairline. This is 2013. It's already starting to look obvious when the hair is wet. This is 2014. It's looking more and more obvious, okay, when the hair is wet. Again, when the hair is dry, it's not as obvious, but the volume is already, looking less. He starts losing volume from the top, obviously, here. It's ideal time to start with the treatment protocol actually if you want to avoid further thinning or if you want to slow down the thinning. And ideally you want to start out with the golden standard of treating male pattern baldness, which would be the finasteride oral, minoxidil topical with microneedling to boost the penetration of that minoxidil and boost the effectiveness of that minoxidil. And on top of that, obviously ketoconazole shampoo. That would be the golden standard of treating your hair loss. Will it work for everybody? Yes, there will be a response almost by everybody. This is the most studied protocol for treating male pattern baldness. So clearly everybody should have some type of response. It's like who will respond better and who will not. I can tell you from my experience and anecdotal experience of other guys who wear diffuse thinners, for example, I can share that the response to finasteride was awesome, was pretty good, even despite starting with finasteride kind of late. During the diffuse thinning process. Like for me, I started quite late with finasteride and still was able to thicken the hair and recover pretty well. And the same way were able other guys who were diffuse thinners that I consulted or guys who reached out to me and shared with me their results on finasteride. So I can tell that this guy would have probably responded pretty well to finasteride had he started in 2013, 14. Maybe he started, I don't know, maybe not. It's hard to tell. But if he didn't, he should have started. This is 2015, again, becoming more and more obvious that he's losing hair now also in the frontal hairline, and the hairline is affected by the diffuse thinning here. We can see pretty much the frontal third, the whole frontal third is already diffusely thinning very noticeably. This is 2015. In 2016, we can pretty much see just progressive worsening of his hair loss, and this is the time when he decides to get a hair transplant. I have it from the Focus.news. He reportedly got FUE hair transplantation, FUE follicular unit extraction, with a surgeon in Madrid. 4,500 follicles. He actually has a photo with a doctor who is a Spanish hair transplant surgeon. Not sure it was his surgeon. I don't want to be digging too deep into that. But I also found a video of a guy from Spain who is probably his fan, and he was also describing his hair loss history and how he was able to reverse his hair loss with a hair restoration surgery from here, as you can see, to here. In 2017, and these photos here are from 2017, so we can clearly see him with fuller hair here compared to here or here. And I assume this guy is a big fan of him. He's probably from Spain, so I'm sure he's following Rafael Nadal year by year, and I'm sure he was able to spot this big difference, so we can definitely attribute it to having had hair restoration surgery. Now, how many grafts he got, for sure, that's something which is unclear, but I would definitely lean into him having had a hair transplant as well, because it definitely looks like an improvement from here, what you can see in 2016 to this in 2017. This is like French Open 2017. He won probably as well again, and look at that. We see much thicker hair. It's shorter and it has good volume. It has comparable volume to what he used to have in 2013, maybe 2014 here. So this is clear improvement. Also here, this is all 2017 with fuller looking frontal third. And they probably also strengthened the mid-scalp. And if we take a look at this area here, we can definitely, spot the similarities between, FUE, follicular unit extraction, which kind of thins out the whole area, the sides, the back, and that's how it can look exactly. So of all you guys who got FUE already, you know what I'm talking about. We see still that he has that thicker hair here, which probably they didn't want to touch a lot and didn't want to extract hair from there, because Rafael Nadal is known for combing the hair kind of over the diffusely thinning areas, so they wanted to preserve the hair on the lateral humps as much as possible, so the thickness of that hair can be kind of spread and cover and combed over the diffusely thinning areas, so they didn't want to harvest from here. Obviously it's at the risk of the safe zone as well, but some doctors do utilize that hair also for FUE, but with him probably they didn't want to do much, so they just focused probably on this area, maybe a little bit from this area, and obviously the whole occipital region on the back and the other side as well. And if you take a look at his hair from this region, we could also maybe theorize like, yeah, here it probably looks like it's a bit more thinner compared to maybe this region here, and this could be also attributed to FUE. Again, I don't see any scars, I don't see any strip, so it was likely FUE. And also Spain has many FUE doctors. FUE is way more advanced there than FUT, and there are better doctors who do FUE in Spain than FUT. I'm really glad that they didn't do the temples, or he didn't want to have temples restored. That's a good thing. And they also didn't try to lower his hairline, which is a great thing, because they knew that this guy will keep on diffusely thinning, and in order to avoid that weird dense looking frontal section with a perfectly framed hairline and maybe even temples on a diffused thinner who is like still having progressive alopecia and is going pretty aggressively, so they didn't want to risk him ending up with a funny looking hair maybe 5 or 10 years later. This hairline was really restored in an anticipation of future hair loss, which is a great thing, and not every doctor can do it. If you go to Turkey, like most of the clinics who are like the ones from cheaper zones, usually you come there as a diffuse thinner and they just do the perfect hairline for you, the perfect frame, so they can make you happy. It's going to look great on their testimony page, but they don't really do it in your best interest for the future, right? Because I see many guys, diffuse thinners, coming to Turkey getting that hairline low, perfect frame, looks great for a year or two, and then the whole section on the mid-scalp and crown will keep on diffusely thinning. The person won't have enough grafts or follicles, for all you new guys, to extract and transplant the mid-scalp and crown in the future, because the front already required maybe three and a half. If we go fast forward to 2021, we notice one concerning thing. You can see that Rafael is losing more hair on the crown, especially the mid-scalp looks also receded, but not as much as the crown. That means that they very likely did not do crown during his first surgery in 2016, and they just focused on the mid-scalp and frontal third. Here we can see also the benefits of restoring one's hairline with the anticipation of future hair loss on candidates like Rafael Nadal, because we see that it looks at least naturally thinning. It doesn't look weird. He doesn't have a dense looking hairline here, maybe even restored temples, and the back is like diffusely thinning. At least the doctor was smart enough to not do that, and that's great, because now he can add more hair, strategically to the frontal third, maybe mid-scalp, and so on, to add more fullness. But at least he didn't lower his hairline before, and he didn't do any crazy density before, so that's a good thing. Now, if I would have to predict his hair loss in the future, and he's only like 34, 35 right now, I would probably tell that the crown will be pretty bald. So what you can do in such case, and it's very likely that you won't have enough follicles in the donor anymore to cover that baldness like Rafael, because he already had 4,500 grafts transplanted. That means his donor cannot provide as many anymore. Maybe 2,000, maybe 3,000 if the doctor pushes that, maybe with some additional body hair. Still not going to be enough, because look, and here we can see the proof that they did not, in fact, focus on the crown area with his first hair restoration in 2016, but mainly on the mid-scalp and the front region, which again, I think most of it will be transplanted hair by this time. Again, this will keep on thinning, and what I'm afraid with him, that his lateral humps will start, thinning lower like that, and this will create pretty unfortunate situation, because he still has pretty good density on there, and he's always he used to rely on that hair and kind of comb it from the humps also, and comb it over the balding areas on the mid-scalp. So it's very crucial that he's able to keep that hair here, and the only way how to keep it best is with the golden standard medication protocol that I already mentioned. And also here we can notice how full that these lateral humps still are in that region, and that's great, and he still can keep them as long as he's on the treatment. And once he starts losing them, this is going to create another balding area, which will put more and more demands on his donor, which is already touched, and it already had been, harvested like 4,000 grafts plus minus, which is enough, for it to be considered almost depleted, like by an average candidate. 4,500 grafts can already deplete your donor pretty much. So I assume his donor is a little bit better, although I have never seen it. Once it was short, that's when you see it better. If the hair is too long on the donor, it's kind of easily to be camouflaged, so you cannot really evaluate how thick and full that hair is on the sides and back, but I assume it's going to be above average for sure, and that's why he could maybe even squeeze 2,000, maybe even 3,000 grafts more from it, and then obviously let that hair grow longer on the sides to camouflage that potential patchiness that is gonna be there as a result of so many extractions with the FUE. Because I can imagine that he will probably want to have this region strengthened so it doesn't look so receded in the future. And I also have noticed how he likes to comb that hair from his right side to his left side like that. And if you take a look at his photos, that's how he likes to do it. So it makes sense to actually focus on that region with the next surgery and plant as many grafts there instead of his other side here, because then he can utilize the coverage better and kind of just comb everything from here to here, and it's going to look fuller compared to, getting 50% of the grafts here and 50% here. The uniform coverage wouldn't make so much sense, and for the crown, he'll probably need to live with partially restored or partially balding crown forever, because I don't think he will have enough grafts for the crown. And it's not like many people think like, yeah, he got a hair transplant, he will need another one later. He just gets another one, he has a lot of money, he can do it. No, he can't, because even if you have a lot of money, it doesn't matter, because your donor area is still limited, and the money that you have will not help, because there's only a certain level what can be achieved with hair restoration, and it has its limitations. And even if you pay the best surgeon in the world, he will not be able to clone your follicles or multiply them in his lab. Anyways, so for that you still need to be smart as a guy who has most money, celebrity, sports athletes, and so on. Okay. So the take-home message will be pretty much for all of you new guys, usually that don't know much about this, is that even after having had one hair restoration, hell, even two, your hair can still look worse in the future if your androgenetic alopecia keeps on progressing further. In order to avoid that, you want to plan it, you want to strategize it, you want to make sure that you have that solid base, you have that golden standard of treating your hair loss that you can rely on, that you respond well to, that it's keeping your hair, and then you can consider hair restoration, and it can be a wonderful thing. It can transform your hairline, it can transform your confidence, it can really add more variety to the way you style your hair, and you have more freedom. And for all of you guys who are interested in a hair transplant, you want to make the best possible decision, you want to plan it properly, you want to find the right doctor, the best doctor, or best price quality ratio clinic, maybe in Turkey or worldwide, for your surgery, and make sure you get on a one-on-one call with me where you can benefit from my personal assistance and guidance. I have already consulted more than 700 guys over the last couple of years and helped them directly with my direct involvement throughout all the steps before the surgery in order to make their hair transplant the most successful long term. If you're interested, there is a link in the description below where you can book a call with me, and see you there. That was pretty much it, guys. Take care.